Are they the richest pop band of all time?
ABBA have actually sold 365 million records worldwide. That's really quite an achievement.
From a folkish first to the biggest outdoor date of its day, did the winner take it all from ABBAmania?
They ended up losing the equivalent of £3 million or something. We'll take you from fish, fish, fish to...
And take a sneaky peek at that wardrobe with a little advice from a leading fashion expert.
I have a kind of theory that because it's so dark up there, that they feel that they have to dress like the Pope's mother.
We reveal the money-saving schemes behind those videos.
So when you see them twirl, there is this silly flower packet on wheels.
We track down ABBA's biggest fan.
Welcome to ABBAland.
ABBA come to Sweden to find out how the ABBA half really live.
It's a rich man's world.
With a gay following beaten only by Kylie, it seems fitting that it all began here, in the UK's #1 gay seaside resort, San Francisco in Sussex.
It being the superstardom that 4 unknown Swedish performers were thrown into after a debut performance on the international circuit.
This is it, the Brighton Dome, home of Eurovision 1974, and the launch of ABBA onto the worldwide stage.
Just because Eurovision has become a kind of socially approved freak show doesn't mean that we should think it always was a socially approved freak show. It was not. It was the ultimate showcase for talent that was not from Britain.
Everybody takes it seriously except the UK. I take some credit for that.
We may not take it seriously now, but Terry Wogan is responsible for turning the Eurovision Song Contest into one of the biggest watched events on the TV calendar.
I love the Eurovision. People often make the mistake of thinking that because I send the thing up that I dislike it. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful event. The atmosphere this year was fantastic in the hall. The enthusiasm, it's terrific. Hold it down to a dull roar. The rest of Europe thinks the British are reserved. I've been doing this 31 years, and it's extraordinary to think of how it has grown and grown since then.
Here are the results of the Luxembourg jury.
Liquid Assets tracked down one of the original members of the UK jury from that starry, starry night, Basil Hewald.
I was a student at Queen's College in Cambridge, and I didn't tell any of my mates that a letter had arrived inviting me to be a member of the British jury in the Eurovision Song Contest.
When the conductor Sven-Olof Waldorf bounced onto the stage dressed as Napoleon, the judges should have been prepared for the unexpected.
The song is called... Oh, and it's Napoleon! No wonder the song is called Waterloo!
It was only a laugh of the night for me. You have to remember, all the other conductors came on wearing dicky birds and something. And then the Swedish guy comes on wearing Napoleon's outfit, and everyone collapsed laughing. But the younger people on the jury collapsed laughing, and the rest on the stage thinking this wasn't very funny. It was attention-seeking behaviour.
Waiting for Waterloo by ABBA for Sweden. Watch this one.
We watched the television performance like everybody else in Europe did. And then the television was switched off, so we weren't allowed to see. And then we had to vote.
United Kingdom comes next. So let's see if we can reach London. Hello, London.
I now know that by the time we came to vote, other countries had all given ABBA as many votes as they could. We, the British jury, gave no votes whatsoever to the entry from Sweden. None, zilch, nothing.
Waterloo marched on to sell 6 million copies worldwide, reaching #1 in 14 countries.
Finally! painting my Waterloo.
In the 30 years since Waterloo's release, it's netted ABBA an admirable £1.75 million.
Stage performance.
What a grand return on a handful of flights from Stockholm and a few nights in a posh hotel, albeit Brighton's best.
Stig Anderson took a chance with Eurovision and booked the band in here, the place to stay in Brighton. Ironically, the hotel had no idea of their song title.
I can't conceal it, don't you see, can't you feel it?
Today, this suite will cost you £1,500 a night. But what exactly do you get for your money? Well, you get a nice sitting room. Two bedrooms for the price of one. Both with sea views. A dressing room that's hardly big enough for all of the costumes. And on top of that, you also get a bathroom that's big enough for four. They may have been happy sharing a Brighton bath, but just where have this silver-spangled Fab Four come from? Sweden is a big country with a small population and not a great deal to do. Because of this, most Swedish kids are encouraged to be musical. It's a form of home entertainment, either that or learn to ride. For our four young singers, the Swedish stage was the first step on the road to worldwide fame and fortune. Bjorn Ulvaeus was part of the Hootenanny Singers, a schoolboy sensation band of the early 60s, in Sweden that is, and I tracked down founder band member Hansi Schwartz, who gave Liquid Assets an exclusive interview. Now I guess it's every schoolboy's dream to be in a successful band, and you guys lived that dream.
That's right, yes we did. It was absolutely fantastic.
And how did you manage to mix being in a successful band and coming to school?
Well, it was hard work. We had to try to make it both and do it well and make our parents happy to make a good exam. That's what it was. And make ourselves happy making good music.
They made themselves very happy with a record deal while still at school.
We made a lot of records. I think we did 20 albums. And we made around 250 songs by that time. But that didn't give so much money. The money was in touring in Sweden.
So what sort of money was it you would get as artists?
It was 3%.
3%. Each or between you all?
Between us all.
Baby, those are the rules.
So it was not a percent each on the album, so it was not so much money.
But it was better than maths homework. Bjorn's first professional foray as a folk singer netted him a worthy £10,000.
I had a dream.
This traditional music wasn't the only option for the discerning Swedish youth. There was an alternative.
For a country steeped in tradition, Sweden has produced its fair share of international icons. Bjorn Borg, IKEA, Absolut Vodka. And in the early 60s, he even had his own version of the Beatles.
So if it was rock and roll you were after, Swedish style, then how about the Hep Stars? Introducing Benny Andersson on keyboards.
We was really big. We sold like about 100,000 copies of almost every single we released, and that was a lot of in Sweden. I mean, it's a small country, and it was like the hysteric fans screaming, crying, and we were really big.
Sven's still really big in Sweden and is currently number 9 in the Swedish charts.
We really worked too much. I think we toured and toured and toured. I think we was performing 7 days a week, which was really much. But okay, we were young and it was fun, so why not?
Why not indeed? It was worthwhile, and Benny's pre-ABBA worth was a rock and rolling £12,000. He still collects royalties from the Hep stars today. Bjorn and Benny, although musically poles apart, would meet often. Either here at Bjorn's family home or rehearsing at his dad's paper mill. They shared a love of music and melody. And the seeds were sown for the Swedish equivalent of our very own Lennon and McCartney.
When he started composing with Björn, that they were going to be real big, I mean, even outside of Sweden. It was just in the air, because he was so talented. And when he wrote songs, I still think he's the best one we have in Sweden to write songs, him and Björn.
So while the boys in their respective bands lived the life of rock and roll, Swedish style, what of the girls? Agneta Falskog dreamt of singing stardom, and by the age of 18 had quit her low-paid telephonist job and was singing full-time. She had a manager and a record deal. This little scene video was the beginning of the blonde bombshell image that would come to haunt her. By 1968 she was top gunning the Swedish charts, and this being Sweden in the 60s, her pre-ABBA income of £5,000 was some considerable fortune.
Här kommer alltså dagens segerinna, Annie Frid Lyngstad.
Annie Frid Lyngstad, meanwhile, did not have the Swedish golden hair touch, but at the age of 21 she won a talent contest in Stockholm. Part of the prize was to perform live on national TV.
Det var en ledig dag, så fylld av välbehag.
Liquid Assets takes an exclusive look at her painfully shy first professional performance. Although this led to a club career, Frida never really cracked the elusive charts, and her pre-ABBA value was only £3,000. This puts the ABBA before ABBA running total at £30,000. These small fortunes would soon become a joint one. In tiny Sweden, 4 such talents were bound to meet, and they did more than that. Quite the Posh and Becks of their day. Although who was actually with who always seemed up for question.
Anna, that's nickname for Agneta. She's married to me, and she's the blonde one. And Frida, the red-haired one, she's engaged to Benny.
As a fully fledged foursome, it was a natural double date to take to the stage, and we've unearthed this rare glimpse of their first incarnation. I bet they wish we hadn't. Catchy, maybe, but not exactly a winner, so they ditched the cabaret and the fancy dress and tried again.
People need hope, people need loving.
They had something, but a snappy name wasn't it. Many things stood in their way, not least their names.
De heter Agneta Fältskog, de heter Annie Frid Lyngstad, Benny Andersson och Björn Ulvaeus.
Agneta, Benny, Bjorn, Anna Frid, better known as ABBA. But sadly, somebody got there first.
After consultation with the Fish, it was agreed that as long as the Fish didn't come into disrepute, they could use their initials. So with the Fish on their side and Eurovision behind them, ABBA confidently struck out on the world stage. Behind the scenes, perhaps even pulling their strings, was the unofficial 5th member of ABBA.
Ska klacka slå när Tivet Hambo går, har Fridas Werner blivit galen.
Stig Andersson was their manager and mentor. He was the head of the ABBA family, the godfather. In true Brando-esque style, he would become one of Sweden's richest men. But at what price?
Well, Stig Anderson was a very complex personality, I would say. He came from a poor background, extremely poor background, and he started doing business type things at a very early age, and was sort of, determined to become something. ABBA sort of grew from Polar music. They grew from within the company.
Keeping it in the company meant keeping it in the family. And for the paternal Stig, having that degree of control on the group was an ideal way of keeping all the housekeeping and pocket money together in one purse.
You had Stig as daddy and his wife Gudrun as mummy, because they were the ones who started his whole business venture and everything. And then you had ABBA as the unruly kids, perhaps.
Polar became one of the most successful music companies of its time. It was a company which very cleverly did deals separately, individually, with the other big global music businesses. And in this way, he was able to control the income coming in from ABBA. And for ABBA, it worked. It was a very beautiful relationship. It shone brilliantly.
It not only shone brilliantly, it made millions, and by 1978, just 4 years since Waterloo, Polar Music was worth £14 million, giving ABBA their first family share of £6 million. They say you have to speculate to accumulate, and nothing was quite as spectacular as designer Ove Sandstrom's ideas for ABBA. Not afraid of opening his closet, he shares his stylish secrets with Liquid Assets.
There's a little hat from Agneta Brighton.
That's a pretty famous hat, that is, isn't it? Few people forget what ABBA were wearing that night. In fact, the girls' costumes are a staple on the fancy dress circuit at 30 quid a hire.
Directly after Brighton, then Stig Anderson called me and he said, Ove, we must produce something new. It must be absolutely new. It must be typical Swedish, but it can't be folklore. I do forbid you, no folklore.
Were you limited in a budget in any way to how much you could spend in making these outfits?
To be honest, in the beginning, yes, of course. But as years went by, I had more free hands. This is Agneta's costume, the famous one, the original Mamma Mia. And as you can see, its material is a tricot material and it's absolutely skin tight. And the first time when she was wearing this one, performing with Mamma Mia, the original song, then they were writing more about her famous bottom than about the song.
And Bjorn too wanted his bottom spotted.
I wouldn't be too happy with would be to be wearing such a skin-tight lycra outfit. Was he very comfortable with his body?
He was, yes. He was, yes. And he was well trained. Very well trained. I mean, the girls were screaming. And so when he took off his jacket, really, it was not anybody taking it off. I mean, he was extremely well trained. He was fit.
He never said, now hang on a minute, give me something where I can just hide something.
No. He
was happy to let it all hang out.
Definitely, yes. And he had something to show. He had a very nice body, yes, definitely. Yes. I couldn't go out in the street or sell them, and I would never ever dream of it.
Do you get lots of offers?
Definitely, I do.
Would you be tempted one day?
No, I'm not tempted.
Do you have them all insured?
Yes, they are insured. Approximately 20 million Swedish crowns.
That's a fancy rags to riches £2 million.
If you change your mind, take a chance. I'm the first in line. Take a chance. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance.
You can't dominate the world in your tights, no matter how tight-fitting. They needed an image beyond the lycra and the spandex. There are only about a dozen logos that we recognise all over the world in the same language. The Nike tick, McDonald's golden arches, and of course Shell's petrol shell. Now, ABBA's backward bees have joined the logo wall of fame, but sadly, for its designer, he never signed a royalties deal. The backwards B, a simple but effective trick to harmonise the two couples. A's facing B's is Benny and Bjorn facing their ladies. It's still a winner, but sadly no one realised the value the logo might have had in today's memorabilia market.
Well, I find out they don't have any logo. The group have no logo. And I asked if I can come up with an idea.
So you went to them?
Yeah. And then they like it. So therefore they say, okay, we buy that and you can work.
Did you ever realise that it would be so successful, that brand that you created?
No. I have no idea.
How about your fee for that? Do you get money still for that brand?
No. They pay me like other clients, no royalties at all.
So even though that's one of the most famous brands in the world today, you don't get a penny for that?
No.
How does that make you feel?
I was pleased at that moment I did it, and that's it. No hard feelings about that.
You kept one example of everything. You must have a collection and a half.
I have no collection.
Nothing?
Nothing. That's pity.
That is a pity, isn't it? If you had your time again, is there anything you would change?
Maybe that royalty part of it.
It's a big logo and an even bigger look. But for ABBA, world domination meant spreading their image without leaving home. Knowing them and knowing their attack on the world of pop, what came next for the Super Troopers in the march for global domination?
It wasn't common at all to have a pop group pay for those clips. It was quite an investment.
He's now an award-winning Hollywood director, and Lasse Hallström talks exclusively to Liquid Assets about just how he came to spread the word according to ABBA.
It was really low budget, and my excuse today for the kind of simplistic look, if you want to be kind, of these videos is that they're 2 songs in one day, and I didn't get to really elaborate on them. I had like 3-4 locations for each song.
More at home today with $1 million movie budgets. Back then, Lasse had to use every cost-cutting trick in the book.
I was a cameraman, one guy on the playback, I did the lights. I had, backgrounds that was just cloth that I hung in my apartment towards windows. You can see in the video, Knowing Me, Knowing You, there's this really wrinkled backdrop. And some of it is just too sharp for comfort. You see the wrinkles in the backdrop, and it's not really professional.
And there's more in the Liquid Assets confessional.
In that song, I happened to have a contraption for flowers on wheels. So I put the girls in that contraption, sort of like a bucket. And then a guy was lying underneath, pulling it around. So when you see them twirl, there is this silly flower bucket on wheels that is being pulled in my apartment. So it was simple and silly. But it is 30 years ago. We have to remember that is 30 years ago. So I'm excused. I think I'm forgiven.
Would you class yourself as one of the pioneers when it comes to pop videos?
I think I should be, shouldn't I? MTV hadn't started, this didn't really exist, these kind of videos didn't exist. So it's just a great revenge to see that the music has survived and that the videos have survived. And I knew that this was quality stuff.
Do you manage to get a good deal with them, as in do you get a royalties deal? Do you still get paid today?
There is a little royalty.
There is?
Yes. So I'm enjoying that. That was a good move from whomever made the deal.
It was a good move, and considering Lasse's budget for his recent movie Chocolat, starring Johnny Depp, was $28 million, those ABBA video budgets look like petty cash.
I think one song was like 7,000 kroner was the budget, which is what, £600 or something.
ABBA made the best part of their entire DVD collection for a knockdown £110,000. Not bad when you think the cost of just one video today can exceed £500,000. In the UK alone, the DVD collection has already sold over 60,000 copies, pumping up their liquid assets running total to £11 million. The look, the style and the scene was set. Was the world ready for a Swedish invasion? It's one thing to take on the world via video, but inevitably, like all great leaders, they had to take to the streets and go meet their public. This former army barracks in a Stockholm suburb is the home of the current ABBA empire. And I'm here to meet the man responsible for putting the ABBA machine on the road. Their biggest tour of 1977 was immortalised in their only movie, an exclusive backstage peek at the scale of taking the Super Troopers on tour.
Well, Australia was the biggest outdoor dates ever done in the world at the time. We played I think we did 2 shows in Sydney to over 50,000 people a night, and in Melbourne they have a festival every year called Moomba, and there was over 150,000 people in the park we played, and it was absolutely chaotic. We came in from the airport and with the cars and the buses and everything and police escort, and all of a sudden everything stopped. There was a girl who laid down her kid in front of the cars to get an autograph, and that was very scary.
Everything's fine, you're in the mood for a dance.
How many hours do you reckon you've been queuing for now? 32 hours?
Yep.
You reckon it's going to be worth it?
Ticket prices, they were always very concerned about ticket prices, and they always wanted the ticket prices to be affordable to their fans, and their fans were from 12 to 25. So they were always very concerned, the ticket prices were always very cheap.
How much money will you lose on this tour?
We won't lose any money.
It's a good question.
I don't think we lose any money. But it's pretty even. Yeah, it costs a lot.
They never made any money on the road, and that was one of the fabulous things as a producer and a promoter to work with. Because they always said that we don't want to lose money, but it's okay if we don't make any money. So we always had the opportunity to use the best sound system, the best lighting system and the best people. We always pushed the boundaries, and that was the great thing with sound, with lights, with money. There was really no such thing as this can't be done. Anything could be done.
So money was no object, and no money was what they made.
There was absolute craziness and complete Beatlemania. I think the Australian success was based on the videos, actually. Benny has told me that was really their start of international fame. But that's a good thing.
It was a good thing too for moviegoers. With such popularity down under, why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone and make a movie while they were on tour? In Lasse Hallström, they already had just the man for the job.
ABBA, the hottest property on the pop scene. Now I know it's a rush, but I want it on air 7:30 the night they leave. That gives you 1 week. Good on you, Ash, my boy. And remember your deadlines the night that ABBA departs these shores. 7:30 tonight week. Right, okay, good. Go.
Oh, that was just a fantastic time, spending 5 weeks in Australia and trying to come up with a script. It was a very tiny storyline, and I was hoping to basically do a documentary with them.
When I called you last night from Glasgow.
It was just the crazy times for them. And I think I had 3 crews running around, trying to capture every moment of ABBA.
And it's gonna be so different when I'm on the stage.
Every moment shot in Sydney was deluged. First by screaming fans, and then torrential rain.
Very glad to see you. I tell you one thing, you make us forget the rain.
And it was just amazing with these 40,000 people in the rain in Sydney with all these umbrellas. And it was just, goosebumps being there. and running out with them on stage in the rain with all these people, you know, going crazy. It was just wonderful.
ABBA the movie became the 7th biggest selling film of 1978, behind Grease, Saturday Night Fever and Star Wars. It's languished on video for 25 years, but plans are in place at last for a DVD release. Although it was no box office smash, it did net a respectable £400,000.
Smiling, having fun, feeling like a number one. Drums, Fernando.
They were definitely one of the biggest bands in the world during the 1970s and early 80s. In the UK especially, they had 9 #1 singles. And this is, you know, at a time when #1 singles sold masses. But maybe even more impressive than that, they had 8 consecutive #1 albums, and most of those were million sellers.
I could hear the distant drums and sounds of bugle calls were coming from.
We've still got the strongest singles market in the world in the UK, but back then, 1978, 1979, when ABBA were having the majority of their hits, that really was the golden age of the single. So, you know, #1 single, you could expect it to sell maybe 500,000 copies, 1 million copies. You're really comparing them with the big leaguers. It's the Beatles, it's the Rolling Stones, it's Madonna, it's Elvis Presley.
There was something in the air that night. The stars were bright, Fernando. They were shining there for you and me, for liberty, Fernando. Though we never.
By 1979, they'd already sold 80 million albums and made £48 million between them, giving ABBA a total so far of £59 million. With that kind of disposable income to hand, even Elton John might have had trouble spending it.
Conspicuous consumption is out in Sweden. There is nothing more vulgar than showing your wealth in Sweden. You're not supposed to be flash. Nobody is going to applaud you for driving around Stockholm in a Ferrari. Swedes don't flaunt it. That's the difference between ABBA and, say, Rod Stewart. People are not going to like you if you show off in Sweden.
So if those are the unwritten rules, what was there for the newly crowned first family of pop to spend their money on?
Hello, this is Björn of ABBA speaking to you directly from Stockholm. Over there you see the old town, where actually Benny and Frida have a flat.
Although it looks modest, that penthouse flat was Björn and Agnetta's first home together. In 70s Stockholm, that was the closest you'd get to a pop star pad.
It's a rich man's world. It's a rich man's world.
Stockholm is actually built on islands, all of it, and it's bridges going all through the city. And naturally, we're very much a boating people, the Swedes.
One thing about these Swedish superstars is that they don't hide behind security fences. That's Benny's. He may be one of Sweden's richest men, but this is how Benny Andersson chooses to live today. No razor wire, no electric gates, and no CCTV. Just a perfect lake view. And that's Björn's.
Monday, Monday, Monday.
No man is an island, but with enough money you can own one. And with over 2,000 to choose from, Björn bagged this one. Hardly Buckingham Palace, is it?
In the rich man's world.
These days, the only way to get close to Agneta is from the sky. She spends her days as a virtual recluse, and over there is her secret hideaway. But it isn't that much of a secret, as the pilot knows exactly where it is. Nice pad.
Monday, Monday, must be funny.
They are modest by perhaps Hollywood standards, but these are some of the most expensive houses in Stockholm, and their collective value is a sturdy £7 million.
In the rich man's world.
If conspicuous spending was out, conspicuous giving was in.
I think one of the fine moments were when we did a thing at the UN Assembly Room.
welcome back to the United Nations and a gift of song and music for UNICEF concert.
Tell me what's wrong.
1979 was the International Year of the Child, and they had the idea of putting on a concert and asking artists to donate a copyright to UNICEF, which would be a gift in perpetuity.
In your eyes, there is no hope for tomorrow.
Once they decided to do this concert, they wanted to get the next, or the biggest act in the world.
Or to put it another way, ABBA.
I can see that you're all so sad, so quiet.
I remember Agneta rising into view. It was a very effective presentation. That was generous of them too, because at that time they were at their commercial peak, and donating a song, particularly one that was a single, was guaranteed to give UNICEF a lot of money.
Chiquitita, you and I know. How the heartaches come and they go, and the stars they're leaving.
It was a Live Aid in its day, and I'd go on to say it was more than the Live Aid of its day, because I don't think there's ever been a concert like this. It wasn't just showing up to do a performance. This was making a lifetime gift. So every time that song is heard or the song is purchased, UNICEF is making money to this day, 25 years later.
And as the song stays in the charts and on the compilation albums, that amount keeps rising. And to date, Chiquitita has raised over £1 million for UNICEF.
Sing a new song, Chiquitita.
UNICEF may be happy with the ongoing and ever-increasing donation, but one organisation not so happy was the Swedish taxman.
Where are those happy days? They seem so hard to find.
1 or 2 years into ABBA's success, he sort of made a deal with them that they should acquire 50% of the record company, Polar Music.
So the band had 50% and Stig had 50%?
Yes.
With 50% of the collective worth of ABBA and Polar Music, Stig was one of the richest men in Sweden, and he wanted to keep it that way.
ABBA is sort of into the millionaire brackages.
Well, you can't be that in a country like Sweden, you see, when you are paying 85% in tax. 85, I repeat.
Once ABBA hit the world stage, they became very much the biggest property of this music company, Polar. As the money rolled in, it meant that that company, Polar, was faced with an enormous tax bill. Taxes at the time in Sweden on a personal level were at 85%, so he had to start thinking of ways in which he could manage the money without giving away so much to the Swedish taxman.
And the tangled financial affairs of ABBA are the world's most successful pop group found keeping a fortune a lot harder than making one.
What happened to our love? It used to be so.
They bought a bicycle factory called Monarch, which was one of the big bicycle brands in Sweden. Then they had that company buy another of their companies that they already had, the company through which the ABBA earnings went. And through this sort of complex scheme, they were able to declare the profit as company profit.
The bicycle company was just one of the many that Stig used to filter all of their earnings through, and for a while it seemed to be keeping everybody happy.
They were able to declare capital gains tax, which was only 35% as compared to income tax, which would have been 85%.
An amazing story. Is that all legal in Sweden?
It is. It certainly was at the time.
This all worked well for a while. The group paid less tax and everybody was happy-ish. But then demand began to outstrip supply, particularly demand in the Eastern Bloc.
The problem was, it was the Cold War. Russia had no money. What could it give you? It couldn't give you dollars, it couldn't give you rubles. Instead, what they did was they set up this very bizarre bartering system. When ABBA sold a record in Moscow or in Leningrad, they would be paid in potatoes or lard cars. Eventually, it became oil, which is the most tradable commodity. Now, Stig set up a company called Pol Oil. It was quite a risky business, but this was the time of the oil crisis. The oil price was very, very high. The oil price started falling. He got caught out very heavily by that. The company collapsed. Pol Oil went out of business. As a result of that, the whole web of companies that Stig had set up started to topple.
Like J.R. Ewing, oil would be their downfall, and money, money, money became tax, tax, tax. Stig's dealing in the oil markets, as well as his inventive tax accounting, cost ABBA a crude £26 million. But rules are rules after all, and although they were eventually forgiven, it would seem that the city of Stockholm has never really put them on the map, a la Beatles Liverpool. Surely somewhere there's an ABBA tribute.
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, I've got a few hours free today, and I was wondering whether it's possible maybe to book to go on an ABBA tour. Do you have an ABBA tour?
No.
No. Do you have maybe a memorial somewhere towards them?
No.
Museum?
No.
Blue plaques? Anything at all?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing about ABBA. It's a good idea, but no.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
I found this hard to believe, so I thought I'd try the usual suspects.
You'd think that Stockholm's Hard Rock Cafe, home of pop memorabilia, would have an impressive ABBA collection. Maybe not.
Perhaps it's outside Sweden I need to look. Back in London, I took a chance at Christie's. At a recent pop memorabilia auction, the highest bid of £123,000 bought you the Beatles contract with Brian Epstein. The lowest bid of the day for £250 bought you this, a signed ABBA sleeve. There may not yet be an international market for ABBA memorabilia, but somebody in here begs to differ.
Hello. Thomas, how are you doing?
Welcome to ABBAland.
Welcome to ABBAland. What a start. Thank you very much for that. Okay, and what have we got in here?
Well,
wow.
Some of my collection.
Just some of it?
Yeah, it took me 2 days.
2 days to put it all
I
out?
don't live like this, but it's okay to show.
Well, can I say, Thomas, it's a beautiful presentation here.
Thank you.
It looks good. Now, where did you start? What was your first item?
Well, it must be this single, the Waterloo.
Yeah.
It was with the Swedish entry in Sweden for Eurovision Song Contest, and I fell asleep.
Right.
So I didn't know who won. So my mother bought this the record day after.
Okay, what have we got over here now?
Well, some of my valuable things, I think.
These are the valuable things?
Yes.
Right.
Of course, the dolls is very expensive.
How much are they worth?
$3,000. And then
$3,000.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
And then I have the clogs.
Do they fit?
Not me. They're very ugly. But the young people would probably wear them today. But we wore them in the 70s. This is the record department, I think.
The record department?
Yeah. The singles from...
Not the kitchen,
yes,
the record department. Yeah. So how much is the whole collection worth?
I think about £40,000.
That's not bad, is it?
No. Comparing to that, I spend about 4,000.
Really? So you probably paid 4,000, it's now worth 40. That's a good deal, isn't it? Yeah. That's not bad at all.
Thomas may be trying to collect up all that ABBA touched, but they themselves aren't interested in buying up their past. In less than a month's time, these famous studios are due to be closed down and redeveloped as offices, and I've been privileged enough to have been granted a last-minute guided tour, and waiting for us in here to do the deed is our guide, Jeffrey de Hart. Jeffrey, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you. So I guess this is where it all happened?
Yes, this is the main control room of Studio A, where the recordings for the last 3 ABBA albums were made, and countless other albums by other groups since. And there's quite a few photo sessions of the band here, as well as videos. I think the video for Gimme 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 was shot here.
Right.
Actually exactly where we're standing.
What's this here?
This is Frida's signature.
I was wondering who'd been naughty enough to scribble on stools here. And this is for auction, I gather?
Yes, both stools. This was Aneta's, but Aneta didn't sign hers. The panels, actually, the glass panels.
Very famous glass panels.
Which, yes, indeed.
If only these soundproof walls could speak, isn't it?
Yeah,
they'd have some stories.
What they could say, what they could sing.
The studios are now long gone, but the records play on and on and on. At the height of their fame in 1983, ABBA had sold 175 million records, with a street value of £525 million, netting them a shared £78 million. This puts their absolutely fabulous total at £116 million. They were on top of the world with the charts at their feet, but what was a financial high would become an emotional low. They might not want to talk about the things they've gone through, but it was apparent in the early 80s that all was not happy in ABBA-land. Both couples were heading for disaster, and the release of Winner Takes It All would once and for all expose the cracks in the ABBA family facade. And Jetta's close friend Britta Arman talks exclusively to Liquid Assets.
I don't want to talk about things we've gone through.
Björn wrote that song when Agneta and Björn broke up. And Agneta sang this song. He had given her the text, and she went into the studio and she sang it. It took everything for her to do that.
The winner takes it all, the loser standing small beside the victory. That's her destiny.
But you can hear, if you listen to this song, what a fantastic feeling it is in the words, in the music, and in Agneta's voice. I love that song.
And someone way down here loses someone dear. The winner takes it all, the loser has to fall. It's simple and it's plain. Why should I complain? But tell me.
One of the enduring ABBA images is the famous Park Bench shot. Although happier shots were taken, a solemn fragmented one was chosen for the cover of their greatest hits. Was this an apt comment on their stagnating relationship?
Somewhere deep inside.
The strain and the pressure of the road had taken its toll, and the group hadn't toured for 4 years, so finally and financially they went their own way. Ultimately, for the band members, new lives and loves would take over. But for now, ABBA would continue to record and release albums. With their personal relationships in tatters, could it get any worse? Well, yes. ABBA again found themselves on the wrong side of the taxman when they were sued for non-payment of personal taxes.
They had to renegotiate their record contract because they were on a royalty level of 3% for the entire group, which had been reasonable if it had been the 1960s or something, but now they were international superstars. They felt that was too low.
They thought they had renegotiated with Stig and were now earning a more respectable 9%. But when they approached him to clear up the tax mess, it was apparent he'd never paid them more than 3%. The final nail in the ABBA family coffin was driven home when they sued the daddy.
The out-of-court settlement was never really made public, so we don't know. We know that they wanted about, I think, 27 million kroner or something, and it was said at the time that they got about half of that.
They finally settled for an undisclosed amount, but Liquid Assets can reveal that the missing 6% in back royalty payments would have meant that each of the four clawed back £2 million from Stig. A legal total of £8 million. With the apron strings well and truly cut, the four could shake off their polar past and pursue their own goals. But they were never going to be allowed to slink off into the sunset and write folk music.
brilliantly, they did not break up. They just didn't make any more records. This is very important because people think of ABBA in terms of a good time. Of course, new generations come along every 5 years, and they needed ABBA too. So in the early 90s, you had an ABBA revival, and everybody still loves ABBA.
No albums on the go, no tours left to take. Perhaps ABBA should have been consigned to the recycle at weddings bin.
There's a lot you can teach me, so I wanna know what's the name of the game.
It's been more than 20 years since they performed together, but their songs and recordings are still here. And today, no one doubts that they will be around for as long as the world goes on listening to pop music.
Nobody has since written that kind of pop music. It's immediately ABBA. You know it's ABBA. You can hear it coming.
Or you can hear it ringing. A brand new way to enjoy ABBA's music is in the palm of your hand.
ABBA continued to make millions worldwide in record sales and royalties. And now in the 21st century, there's a whole new source of income. Ringtones. For every ABBA tune downloaded onto a mobile phone, the group net 16 pence.
The name of the game.
New technology, more outlets, and for ABBA, it all equals more money.
ABBA have actually sold 365 million records worldwide if you add them all together. And I don't know anyone else who's done that.
Any record store, any high street, you don't have to troll the vintage stores for ABBA. They're here, loud and proud, and still in the charts.
ABBA are third to the Beatles and Elvis in amounts of records shifted, and Liquid Assets calculates that of the £1.9 billion raised, ABBA have a collective income of £224 million. As chartbusters, ABBA are hard to beat, and in other parts of the arts, the boys' wealth was about to quadruple.
I've been cheated by you since I don't know when. So I made up my mind it must come to an end. Look at me now.
This production celebrated its 5th birthday on the 6th of April 2004. Mamma Mia has grossed over £105 million at the UK box office. This production has played over 2,000 performances and has been seen by over 3 million people. Mamma Mia has been seen by over 18 million people worldwide, and it's already grossed over £410 million at the box office.
So far, the worldwide takings on Mamma Mia are approaching $750 million. It's gigantic, it's £500 million. There's nothing like it in theatre. This is bigger than any Hollywood movie, and there's no sign of it stopping either.
As the world domination of Mamma Mia continues, it's finally going home in early 2005.
Stockholm Circus Theatre has over 1,600 seats, and at £45 a go, that's another 75 grand a night into the overflowing Mamma Mia pot.
Mamma Mia's extraordinary spectacle has earned its producers nearly £500 million, 112 of that going to ABBA. For the 4 members of ABBA, their increasing wealth seems unstoppable. For the boys as composers as well as performers, it's almost astronomical. Benny tops the pile with an uncountable £98 million. Bjorn's fortune, like his height, is just short of Benny's at £86.5 million. Annie Fried married well and is worth a princessly £12 million. And despite returning to the charts, Agneta is still the baby with a personal fortune of £6 million. So take 4 Super Troopers, throw in a West End musical and a record-breaking recording history, take out a very enthusiastic taxman, and you come to an exclusive and staggeringly super Liquid Assets final total of £203 million. So is this the last we've seen of Sweden's Fab Four?
I heard a rumour that they've been offered £1 billion or whatever to get back together and to go on tour.
$1 billion.
$1 billion?
Yeah.
It would be a terrible idea for them to get together, and they know it, and they won't do it, and that's fantastic.
I think it's a terrible idea to bring ABBA back together. You should never do that. What, did two matronly women come out with two extremely old guys? Who's going to buy that?
Of course, I'd love to get back to do something with them.
Do you think they will get back together?
Why not Mamma Mia? It could be a great film, couldn't it?
We get one ridiculous offer after the other, but I'm afraid it's never going to happen.
The Rogers family get the Who Rules the Roost treatment next on BBC Three.